Professor Ncube, who is, as you know, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, so he will be giving us a decision of Cabinet on the Transitional Stabilisation Program. And we also have Dr. Ndlovu, Minister of Industry and Commerce, who will be, the minister who will be implementing a decision on some legislation relating to investment, promotion. So without much ado, let me call upon you, Honorable Minister Mthuli.
Thank you very much.
Take the stage.
Welcome you again to this second post-cabinet meeting press conference. Our first meeting was dominated by the cholera outbreak, and I'm glad today we are covering less gloomy items. The Second Republic is now full swing and needs the support and participation of all citizens. Here is our updates. On the issue of cholera, the cholera situation, government continues to carry out short-term measures to address the current outbreak of cholera and typhoid, as well as the long-term measures to prevent the recurrence of the same epidemics. It is pleasing to note that whilst the outbreak is not yet over, there is now a sharp decline in the number of cases of patients being admitted in hospitals due to cholera infections. Government is also pleased by the rising improvement in the cleanliness of our cities and appeals to all our people in the business fraternity to continue observing general personal hygiene and to prioritize cleanliness of the environment so as to effectively contain this disease. On the issue of the Transitional Stabilisation Program, which is starting from 2018 up to 2020, following presentation in Cabinet of the Transitional Stabilisation Program by the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Professor Mthuli Ncube, Cabinet approved prioritizing the aggressive marketing and rebranding of Zimbabwe to facilitate tourism, trade, and investment. 10. It will emphasize on the development of e-government platforms in order to engender efficiency and curb corruption. It will also prioritize the provision of health and education services as well as social protection. And finally, it will focus on public enterprises sector reform. That is the second topic which we discussed, which is the Transitional Stabilisation Program. Establishment of the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, ZIDA. The agency will serve as a one-stop investment services center with the goal to promote and facilitate quick response, quick processing, and effective protection of investment.
Transitional Stabilisation Program. The monetary sector reforms for dealing a blow on inflation, whether they're looking at, which is the introduction of the structural reserves of 5%. That too is something that is articulated in the TSP, the need to keep inflation under control. And then in terms of the introduction of the foreign current accounts, separating between the nostrum, the RTGS, FCS, again, that's part of currency reform or exchange rate reform, which again is articulated in the Transitional Stabilisation Program. So there's nothing in there that is outside, including the idea of broadening the tax base, recognizing that the economy has become more informalized, but also recognizing that the economy has become more innovative on the financial transactions front. So in a sense, you have to follow the money, so to say. But whatever you do, make sure that whatever you introduce is progressive rather than regressive. Now let me then come to the specifics of your question on what the stakeholders are saying about the FCA accounts and so forth. There's an admission, the exchange rate is different. I don't know there's an admission or whether I want to really characterize it like that, or whether we're trying to make sure that exporters work hard to export are able to retain all or a portion of their export process. This makes it easier for them to have a pot of US dollars to be able to use for further imports, which is what we always need to export. So it's a very simple issue into hard currency. We're not convertible into hard currency anyway. So we kind of knew that, yes, there are US dollar denominated balances, but the conversion wasn't there. They actually, in the Chinese wall, between that and your true nostro accounts. So that we understood. It's not an admission or anything. It is what it is. Is BOTs, BOs, or BOT, all those structures and other sophisticated mechanisms. We're looking at using more of those as we go forward to invest in infrastructure and crowd in the private sector, because it always has more resources than government. And then last two sectors, which is mining and agriculture, again, seeking to make sure that the agricultural productivity keeps going up through the various programs that we are currently implementing, and make sure that the private sector gets involved more and more going forward, because again, that will give us the sustainability that is required. In the mining sector, one area that we shine a torch on is the area of prospecting. We know that Zimbabwe is under prospecting in Zimbabwe compared to other mining oriented countries. So we need to just invest more in that. More is being done, more licenses have been issued as an example. But again, this idea that this program must speak both to the macro and the micro is all in the document. And again, in terms of priorities, we have 100-day cycles that are linked to a results-based measurement system that will enable us to come up with priority areas, with some of which are already highlighted at the back of the document. It's a 350 or so old document, a big document, which you haven't seen. I think you've seen only a summary, but even that will be kaizened to a more digestible version for the public. But we've done quite a bit in terms of going into the detail of this TSP program, then set the stage beyond December 2020 for the next 5-year development strategy, and then the last 5-year development strategy to get us to 2030 and realize our vision of an upper middle income country. Of course, you did say that, how do you know that these FCS won't be rated? You know what, I want to assure you that they will not be rated, because they're ring-fenced, they're protected. In fact, the way it's structured is, with FCA accounts, they're really, in a sense, these are kept offshore, and then we have a mirror account domestically, which reflects that deposit. Typically, that's how it is structured, but that's internal and in the back office of the government and within the central bank. But it is protected. We will respect that. Certainly within this dispensation, I can assure you we're not going to raid any FCA accounts. You know what happened the last time we did that? Actually, when we shut it down, the US dollars just disappeared. So we've learned that if you raid these FCA accounts, if you shut them down, the US dollars disappear and you go back to disintermediation, which is what we have now. So we've learned a hard lesson. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone, to say raid people's accounts. It's not a good idea. Not under my watch, at least if I'm allowed to watch over those FCA accounts as Minister of Finance. Then on the trackers, where is the problem here with the trackers? We've just laid down the law and said, look, you shall pay in US dollars. People can evade that, pay someone to do that, and then we need to think of enforcement mechanisms. I agree that then we need to think of an implementation mechanism. I can't tell you what that will be, but we have to think of enforcing that. But I think the principle of them paying in US dollars is a good one, and not paying in bond notes or quote-unquote domestic currency. The same thing applies to anyone coming to buy groceries. We are aware that informalized, right? And the mobile telephony platform and transactions platform linked to the mobile phone RTGS system provides us with a way to following this economy that has become more informalized. We're not the first country to do this. Every other country is doing this. In fact, in countries like Kenya, these financial transaction tax is actually higher than that we're proposing. Uganda is kind of similar level as us. But this is an Africa trend now. We're all realizing that our successes in financial deepening means that we have to